Welcome to the Ship Happens Podcast, a podcast about construction, education, and everything in between. I am your host, Joseph Garibaldi, and I invite you to take a listen to a new and exciting podcast about construction and teaching. Thank you guys. Welcome back to the Ship Happens Podcast. It's episode 9. Man, what a morning this has been. This is my third time trying to record this, and I don't even know the right words to say. It's a topic I always wanted to talk about because I personally feel this way, and it's really difficult to put my thoughts into words. But I'm going to try again, and hopefully I get the stick this time. Teaching and working in any environment is difficult. You know, it's hard. My dad, my grandfather, my family has started their own really successful businesses and have done a lot of cool things. And when you look at me, I'm just a teacher in a shop. You know, I didn't start my own company. I didn't go and get my contractor's license. I didn't get any of that stuff. And I think that's really difficult for me. You know, it's really hard. I'll text my dad or something. I'll text, him a picture of what I'm building, and it's never up to his standard. You know, I could be doing something else. I could, why aren't you welding? Well, Dad, you and Grandpa, that you guys did your trade, and I just happen to do those trades a lot better. That's what I was raised with. He goes, you need to weld more. Oh, okay. Well, thanks for that, Dad. I thought you'd be really pumped because I'm, building something and doing something that, you would do if you were in my position. And it's hard. It's hard to teach like this. It's hard to go to meetings where other people kind of look down on you because of your ideas. It's difficult. I'm really pumped. I'm starting to see more podcasts about teaching shop pop up. And on one hand, it makes me very excited. Like, I love that. I think this profession, most people need to understand that it's really hard to teach this sort of thing. It's stressful nonstop. I don't want a kid to be hurt. I don't want to get hurt. I want my kids to learn skills, and it's just extremely stressful. And if any of you are listening to this and you're in the trades and you host apprentice, that sort of thing, you know exactly my feeling, right? But just imagine that feeling with 30 of them, right? It's stressful. It's not fun. But when you go to meetings, you have people from normal disciplines like math and English, and they kind of look down on you. I haven't really had that at the current place I'm at, which is fantastic. It's like one of the first or only places I've been in where you're not looked down upon because you don't happen to teach general education, and that's extremely nice. But it gives you this like chip on your shoulder. My first year teaching, I had no idea what I was doing, and I still have no idea what I'm doing. I'm a new teacher. I have no idea what I'm doing, and I have no shame in admitting that. I have a plan, right? I have a goal. I have a destination I need to get to, but is my car going to get me there? I don't know. But teaching with that chip on your shoulder and something to prove. My first year, I was really kind of timid and shy. I still kind of am timid and shy. I don't really know my place yet, and I feel like I'm constantly walking on eggshells, and that's not a fun place to be in. I feel like I constantly have something to prove, and while that might not be the case, I might be just, over exaggerating it, so you may think, I constantly have a drive to prove people wrong. When I mentioned this podcast, people kind of scoffed and laughed, and I got really mixed reviews. If you have an idea for something, you need to go and pursue that idea. If you truly believe in it, if you truly believe that your idea would better the world, the place you live in, then you have to go all out. If you want it that bad, go all out. And I found there's a lot of people in my corner that are supporters of me and supporters of what I do and believe in the goals that I have. Those are the people you keep in your corner. The people who laugh and kind of scoff at what you do, don't keep those people in your corner. They're not there for your motive or your mission, right? You have a goal to get to. But I want to ask a question. What do you have to prove? What are you trying to prove? Are you trying to prove yourself wrong? Are you trying to better yourself and prove that you can actually do it? You can work in an environment that is difficult. Is that what you're trying to prove? What are you trying to prove? What's your motive? Why do you wake up every day and come to a place where you don't feel supported? Why? As of lately, I don't feel supported. I have people who do support me, but I feel like my idea and plan is not supported by, people who actually matter. And I think that's the hardest part, is trying to work through that notion or that feeling that you don't have the full support of people who truly matter. For example, if I'm working on a job site and I'm building a house, if I don't have the support of my foreman to attempt an idea, then I won't attempt that idea. I can't. He's my boss, right? If my boss questions me, I'm not going to feel comfortable pursuing my idea. And I think that's kind of shameful because you never know how your idea might take hold or how your idea might impact the end goal. And that feeling of unsupport is, guys, exhausting. It's like a weight on you constantly. And I have this drive. I developed almost an obsession-like drive with improving my own mission. What can I do better? How can I be better? I've always heard never stop until your good is your better and your better is your best. Well, how do I make my better my best, right? Having that drive that eats you alive is something that we all kind of need to tap into. What do we just feel passionate about that we need to go and actually just go out and do? What drives you? What gets you to work? I may not feel supported, but I'm truly blessed with what I have. I have an incredible facility that, yes, is aging, but it's my own. I have a legacy of a whole shop of which I am the fourth teacher to teach in since the early, maybe even late, like 1800s, early 1900s. I think when I was talking about my shop last year, I kind of found out that the wood shop portion started in about the 1930s, but they had other shops prior to that. And I think that's the coolest part, at least to me, is that I am part of this legacy and I don't want to give that up. Shop teachers here don't typically leave very quickly, at least wood shop teachers. But it's hard when you don't feel supported, when your ideas are not taken seriously. It's very difficult. But how do I take those ideas and how do I rocket them into something worthy? It's a lot of work. I started making YouTube videos. Hopefully you've heard in my previous podcast. Maybe you've even been on my YouTube channel, watched some of those videos, maybe even came from my YouTube channel. But what am I doing to make myself better? Well, I'm constantly trying to think of new and fun ideas for these videos. Be able to use drones and be able to completely redo the way that I interact with students online and in person is incredibly rewarding and difficult at the same time. But what's your focus? In my personal opinion, proving yourself shouldn't be a goal. You shouldn't have to go out your way to prove yourself. You shouldn't have to brag on social media to prove yourself. You shouldn't have to go to your boss and brag to your boss to prove yourself. Your work should prove yourself. And it greatly upsets me that a lot of my work gets clouded on by a lot of talk. I don't like to brag about what I do. I never will. I don't really see the need in bragging. That's extra time I could be using to think about what my next step is. I never brag about what I do. I always let my work prove itself. There's been times when I've shared in meetings, I was excited about what I was doing. I was excited about the work I was doing. And I was excited about the results I was getting. And I felt like I was getting nowhere with them. And maybe that's what started this kind of unsupport. Extremely difficult to work when you feel like you have zero support. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you do not have the support that you feel like you need, you have a couple options. You could leave the job, find a new job that supports you and grow in that position that you feel supported in and your ideas can foster in, or you can stay in the position you're in and fight with everything you have to create something that you feel is worth it. Either way, my advice to you is have an incredible drive. You need to have a drive that just eats people alive. I used to read, I still read articles, but one of them really stuck out to me, and it was something that I really find a lot with my classes and having an incredible drive and having a chip on your shoulder. There is no doubt about it that I teach a lot of young men in my classes. Now, I don't want this to be a sexist thing or anything like that, but that's just the truth. I have mostly young men in my classes. I have a few young ladies in my classes, and they are fantastic workers. And I remember in college, one of my professors said that a girl would build a project better than a guy would, but a guy would build more projects, but they'd be worse than hers. I find that girls take their time a lot more and really think about the process, where boys think about the end goal. And that's true. When I build a project, I am constantly thinking about how it's going to look when I'm all done with it. I'm not thinking about the process to get there. My wife will be the first to say that she has corrected many projects that I have built because she's thought about the process, what looks good and what process to have. Anyways, back to my point about me teaching mostly men, or young men, I should say. Something kind of spoke to me. I was reading a article that a psychologist wrote, and he wrote about how there is a increasing gap of father-son relationships. And I kind of stopped on this because I have a rocky relationship with my own father. And basically what the psychologist said was that if a son does not get the vocal approval from his father that he's a man, he's going to spend his life constantly trying to prove to his father that he is is in fact a man, trying to get that approval, I guess, that he's actually a man from his father. And I think a lot of young men struggle with this aspect that we don't like to talk about. It's hard to talk about. So we kind of develop a chip on our shoulder, and we kind of just have a drive to constantly prove people wrong and constantly prove to ourselves and ultimately prove to our dads that we are in fact men, and we cannot let that go for some reason. And it's hard. It's a hard struggle. I have a lot of good memories with my dad. I have a lot of unpleasant memories with my dad. It's so hard to deal with. And I think that's where I developed my drive. It's that I'm going to prove you wrong mentality. I'm going to be the best I possibly can be, and even then that's not going to be good enough because I can be better than that. So how do I be better than that? And that's why I want to challenge any one of you, whatever position you might be in. How can you be better than your best right now? Right now, how can you be better? What can you do to be better? You could be the best person. You could be the highest individual at a college. You could be the smartest person in your field. There is still someone out there that's smarter than you. You always can learn more. Always can learn more. I think that's incredible. I've never forgotten that. I had a teacher tell me you have to be a lifelong learner. I always can learn more. I'm not an expert. I might have been raised around masonry. I'm not an expert. There are people that know better or know more than me. There are people that know way more than me. That's why I don't stop. My best that I'm doing right now is not good enough. It needs to be better. So I just push on. I keep going. I keep going. I keep going. I keep going until my best becomes better. And even then, it's not better. Having that animalistic hunger, that drive that pushes you in any sort of job that you might be in is incredible. And you need to have that. You're not good enough. But the cool part is you can be good enough. Be on the edge of what you are doing. Right now in teaching, millions of teachers are struggling with connecting kids. And probably millions of teachers have solid ideas and created ways that they can connect with their students. They invented ways, brand new ways to connect with their students. They're making their best better. So I'm doing the same. I know making podcasts and TikToks and YouTube videos and social media posts really impact my students. So how can I make those things better? How can I make the best thing I have better? How can I impact more people? How can I change more lives? How can I save more kids? How can I do that? And how can I make that better? This isn't a fix it or kick it conversation. There's nothing really to fix, right? If you have an idea and it's truly good, don't fix that idea. There's nothing you need to fix. But there are things you can do to complement the idea and to make it better. For example, some of you guys may gag at this, but I think ranch and pizza go very well together. You have two good things. Add them together. This goes for almost anything in life. If you have two things that are really good, two good ideas, how could you merge those together? How can you create a better version of those things? Maybe they don't complicate. Maybe they don't complement each other. Maybe it complicates things. Then don't do that. Don't do any of that, right? But you'll never know unless you try. You'll never know unless you just give it a good, solid try. But you gotta put your all into it. Just like with any idea, you can't take the easy way out. You have to put your energy, all of it, in your idea, or else it will never take off. I had an old boss. I used to work at Best Buy in college, and I had a boss who really told me some things that honestly I never knew the impact of them until like recently. He told me that there's a few things you have to give 100% of your time to. You gotta give your family 100%. You gotta give your work 100%. If one of those things are not giving you the other 100% back, you need to change something. You can't give 100% and get 50% back. If you are in a relationship with someone, whether it be romantic or professional, if you are giving 100% to that relationship, you are doing those things like the old saying goes, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, that sort of deal. If you are the one doing the scratching and you're not getting anything in return, dump that relationship. It's over. You deserve 100% in return. If you're giving 100%, you deserve 100% in return. Have that drive, and if it creates good ideas and if it makes people better, have a chip on your shoulder. Have that thing, that figurative person behind you whispering in your ear that you're not good enough. Because right now, you are not good enough. And whatever point in your life, you're not good enough right now. And that's okay. Everyone's at that stage. Everyone currently, right now, could be better. I'll be the first to admit it. I'm not perfect. There's nothing in my life that I'm perfect in. I could always be better. So how do we be better? How do we get better? Well, it's up for you guys to decide. Me, I keep pushing forward. I keep thinking of new ideas. I keep trying things. I keep letting my work speak for me. I don't want to brag about what I do. I shouldn't have to. I want more of an organic growth, I guess. I don't think I need people to share out what I'm doing. However, I greatly appreciate that. Like that's awesome. If you think that that's so cool that you have to share my ideas and my talks with friends and coworkers and family, that's awesome. I encourage people to share what I do and share these podcasts, share my YouTube channel. I so encourage it because I think that if you feel impacted, maybe you can impact someone else. But I have a hard time personally sharing out my own podcast because I don't think they're good enough. I don't think that this is good enough. And with that, I do have some early news on podcasting. In order to make what I do better and more impactful, I want to start having guests maybe every other week, start having people on and talk about their stories, talk about the chip that happens in their life. Because so far you've heard a lot of different things from me. You've heard a lot of motivational talks. You've heard a lot of personal stories, how I teach, what brand of tools I use. You're going to hear a lot more other things about why I do things and what I do. But it's important that we take care of our own and hear other inputs and hear other people's journey, because some people have a different road that they took to get to where I am. I'm going to spend another podcast episode explaining kind of my goals or my hopes with where I'm hoping to lead this podcast or drive it. But I want you guys to know that things are going to get more interesting very soon here. I want to interview people. I want to get them to tell their own stories and to see what chip happens in their lives. So I think that's what's important. Anyways, guys, thank you all for listening. I greatly appreciate everyone that listens to this. I know I say that after every episode, but anyone that listens to this, thank you guys. I appreciate it, and I will talk to you guys next week. Episode 10's next week. Let's get it. Hey, thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day. If it's the morning, have a great night. If it's nighttime, we'll see you guys. This has been an episode of the Chip Happens podcast. Thank you all for listening, and I will catch you next week with another exciting episode.